Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So I just wanted to go over my new ITC 2000 point list for the new year. So over the last few weeks, like whilst I've been in the US, I've been practicing mostly the ITC format and essentially getting ready for when I go back to the UK, where I'm going to start doing a little bit of ITC practice and then go on to a few tournaments. So I'm going to the Winter Warfare GT in February in London, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be my first GT, 80 people, 2 days, going to be a lot of fun. And I am taking my pure Harlequins to this event. Now, from a lot of my practice games, I found certain things that worked, I found other things that I wasn't so sure about, and I've tried out a few different masks, including the Soaring Spite, and I'm sorry, but it's just not my playstyle. So for all of you Soaring Spite fans, I get it, they are good, they're really, really fantastic. It just doesn't suit what I want from my army, and that's really what matters to me is, does it fit me? No, it doesn't. So I've gone back to a little bit of what I was doing before, particularly with Frozen Stars, but I've also added a couple of little things in. So let's go over the list. So I've got 3 detachments in this list. It's exactly 2,000 points on the nose, and the first battalion that I am taking is a Frozen Stars battalion. So in this, I've got a Troop Master with a Kiss and a Fusion Pistol. I've got another Troop Master with a Power Sword and Shuriken Pistol, because points. I've got a unit of 5 players with 4 Caress, 2 units of 5 players with 4 Kisses. I've got 15 Sky Weavers with Haywire Cannons and Zephyr Glaives, and I've got 3 Star Weavers. So that's like the core of my army. Lots and lots of attacks, like that's the whole thing. I like my melee, basically, with Harlequins. That's just what I like. It has really fit what I do, my play style, all the rest of it. I'll be going into a few little points that I have with that battalion in a moment. I then have another battalion, and in this battalion I have 2 Shadow Seers, first of all, and the battalion is the Silent Shroud mask. My first Shadow Seer has Shards of Light and Twilight Pathways, and my second Shadow Seer will have the Mirror of Minds and Veil of Tears. I then have 5 players, 5 players, 5 players, so 3 times 5 players with no upgrades, just keeping them base. And I found that these cheap troops can be really useful for the backfield. Just hold on to some objectives, stay out of line of sight, just stay in the back. They tend to get ignored because you're throwing everything else forward. So the threat is coming right at the opponent, which means that the troops in the back tend to be largely ignored completely. So that's it. That's the second battalion. Just nice and cheap, giving me lots of CP, but also with some more psychic support from the Shadow Seers. And there are a couple of little tricks that I'm going to talk about in a moment as well with them. The last thing that I have is my classic mixed Vanguard detachment. So I have a Shadow Seer, Frozen Star Shadow Seer, so that he can fit in the transport and go with the troops. And that Shadow Seer has Webway Dance and the Fog of Dreams. And then I have 2 elites, 2 Death Jesters, who are both Dreaming Shadow. One of them is the Warlord, with player of Twilight and Curtainfall. You know it from me, I love it. And then we have the Solitaire, also as Silent Shroud. Seems like a bit of a weird list, it's a bit of Hero Hammer, but let's go over my thoughts with this one. It does give me 14 CP to start with, which is very nice and a lot more than I've been using before. And I have found that CP are like the lifeblood of a Harlequin's army. You need as many as possible. So that's a really nice start. I might even be spending a couple of CP before the game on different relics, and surprisingly, I might be taking the Great Harlequin as well. There's a reason for this. So there are a couple of combos in this list that I think could be quite nasty. Now the first combo is like a turn 1 Alpha Strike charge. So what I do is I take my Troop Master with a Power Sword, because he's likely to get killed fairly early on, and I make him the Great Harlequin. Then I take my Shadowseer with Twilight Pathways, and I take my Solitaire. Now the Solitaire should actually be able to, in a fair amount of deployments, get in turn 1 anyway. So I blitz in turn 1, pop the deny Overwatch stratagem from Silent Shroud, and deny all that Overwatch and tie up as many different units as I can. Then I Twilight Pathways my Troop Master up so that he's hopefully within 6 inches of everything that he needs to be, so that I get that bubble of reroll 1s to hit and reroll all wounds. Then I take my Skyweavers and obviously use Prismatic Blur on one of them and just throw them into the front lines. So that's 15 bikes in your face, turn 1, rerolling 1s, rerolling all wounds with like up to 60 attacks, strength 4, -2 AP and damage 2. I think that could be a nasty, nasty first turn as an option. I also have a couple of other little bits of synergy within the list. It's the reason why I took Silent Shroud for my mask. So I have 3 Shadowseers. So Shadowseers, obviously, they can cast Smite, they can cast Shards of Light, Mirror of Minds maybe, and just dish out masses of mortal wounds. On top of that, they're grenades, if you remember. You have to pass over the leadership test, or match the leadership test, and then they can do an additional D3 mortal wounds. So what I'm thinking with this is that I can use 1 troop, just put them in front as kind of a shield, and then make sure that they are within 6 inches of 1 enemy unit that I want to target. Then I target that same unit with my Death Jester with Curtain Fall, and I pop 2 stratagems potentially. One of them to give me an extra hit, and then one of them to make the Shrieker profile D3 damage. Now, I'm only going to use this obviously against multi-wound stuff. I'm thinking about things like Centurions or like other multi-wound targets, and it's a lot of CP to invest, but for potentially quite a large payoff, because what you can do is you get the -2 to the leadership from killing something with a Shrieker profile. Then on top of that, you have the -1 leadership from a troop within 6 inches. And then you cast Shards of Light, first of all, in your Psychic phase, for another -1 to the leadership. So you have potentially -4 leadership. If I want to, I can take the Mask of Secrets and add another -1, so -5 to leadership. And then you just bomb it with mortal wounds. So you have potentially 73 plus the Mirror of Minds mortal wounds. Maybe even more if I get lucky with a Smite. Could get a Super Smite, D6 mortal wounds. And it's not like it's going to happen every time. A lot of things need to line up for that to really happen that way. But it does give me a lot of mortal wound output in the list. So those are like 2 of the little combos that I want to play around with. Other than that, I think that the troops going around will just go around and take points, or I can basically double up the charge. So in the second turn, all of my troops get out, join my bikes can move back if they want to, and come out of combat. Then they're not at risk anymore, and I've still got my Troop Master nearby. All of my troops then charge, they get the reroll 1s to hit, they get all the reroll wounds. I think it could be quite a devastating melee option actually for the Harlequins, and I'm really excited to try this one out. So that's the list pretty much. I think there are some very specific combinations in there, but there are also some more general things that I can do. Heroes path a lot of characters around the board and try and take those secondary objectives like behind enemy lines and recon. And that's kind of the idea behind the list. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think it's a decent list? Would you like to try something like this out? Do you think that maybe I've missed something, or that it's not necessarily the most optimized option? What do you think? I think for me, this is what I will be taking to that GT. I'm looking forward to practicing it when I get back into the UK, and I hope that I'm going to do well with it, but we will see. Okay, thank you very much, guys. That is the last video for today, but thank you so much for tuning in. I know it's been a lot, but I thought after the little break that I took over the Christmas holidays, where we were traveling and on holiday, that I would give you guys some updated content. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, like, subscribe, comment down below, let me know what you think. And as usual, I've been Kit, and I'll see you next time. Bye.